Hello. Thank you for joining virtually, whether you're here with us live or watching it on the website. Today's practice and topic will be mindful walking and a discussion about stress. Mindfulness for me has always been related to stress. It's been something that I learned years ago to help find balance in the midst of stress and come back into balance. And that's really what resilience is all about, finding balance in the inevitable stress of our lives. And mindfulness, as a reminder, is just paying attention to our experience in the present moment. Lots of ways to do this. And the many ways of practicing presence, paying attention to the data that's coming into our nervous system all the time, is one tool that helps us find balance, helps us find regulation, helps us come back down when we are overstressed and looking to modulate the stress response with parasympathetic release, the natural, inevitable come down of every stress response. And mindfulness is just one vehicle that can help us learn how to do that. But like any skill, the more we practice it, the more access we'll have to it. Neuroplasticity has shown us that the first few times we try to do this, it's like throwing a ball with our left hand if we've always thrown it with the right, or writing, or something that we have to do for the first time. It seems a little awkward almost to sit here and say, feel your butt in the chair, feel your feet on the ground. It's not something we spend a lot of time, generally speaking. So it's a new habit that each little increment that we practice gives us more capacity to use this tool to its full potential. So before I introduce the exercise, I just want to take a few moments to get grounded and connect with you all and have us connect with the present moment. So wherever you are, standing, sitting, laying, just find that comfortable position and check in with the sensations in the body that tell you this is the ideal position for where your situation is. Maybe noticing the spine, noticing if it's bent or pressure on any areas of it, noticing the base of the spine supported, possibly if we're sitting down, noticing the sensations around those areas of pressure, where it stops, the edges, the temperature. It's fine to close our eyes or leave them open if that's comfortable. Checking in with the support under our feet, maybe at the tips of our toes. Noticing how our breath is right now, not needing it to be any different, but just checking in with what it feels like to breathe. Noticing those sensations that tell you you're breathing. Maybe you feel some pressure against your clothing as you notice expansion in the out breath. Noticing possibly around the mouth or the nose where the air comes in and out. And just letting the breath and the rhythm be as it is. And then noticing anything else in your experience that grabbed your attention. Where's your attention being pulled to in this moment? Let it go. Let it go here. Possibly listening to sounds. Maybe noticing a smell. Is there any smell in the air that we can still notice? And then how about seeing? Even with our eyes closed, we can check in with the sensations of sight. And then once again, feeling the entire body. whatever we're doing, checking in with those sensations. All right, so that was just a very quick kind of dance through our mindful options, and there's many more. Lots of ways to pay attention to the present moment, but I just took us through our senses. So today is a practice that I learned during some of my silent retreats that I did that's very common throughout history of different traditions and mindfulness practices. It's mindfulness of walking, something that we do during our day. Most of the time we don't put this type of intentional mindfulness into it. So basically, it doesn't really matter what space you have to walk in. Make sure it's suitable to walk. It's ideal if you can take your shoes off. Gives you more to feel, whether it be bare feet or socks. And we're just going to pick a small area. You can pick a bigger area when you're doing this on your own, but for the sake of making it simple and having you be in the space where you can still hear this, whatever device you're listening to this on, maybe you only pick a few feet. And we're just explaining the exercise now. And you're going to walk back and forth. Sounds very, very simple, because it is. We're just going to walk very slowly at first, paying attention to each step. First at the bottom of the feet, noticing all the sensations in the feet, in the toes, in the lower leg muscles. And this is kind of level one, if you will, of mindful walking. And it's the level I start at each time. When I'm doing this as an intentional practice, sometimes I've even brought my son out and just walk with him when I'm keeping him, just to relieve some stress, connect with nature, or I'm doing it inside. And the reason we start level one with this really kind of slow paying attention to the feet is because it takes us out of our normal kind of rushing walking pattern. Eventually, as I practice, I will get into a faster, more normal paced walk, but it's a lot easier to slip into our habitual thinking patterns when we're just walking normal, rushing around. It feels a little different, and we can be more focused on our sensations in the feet if we're going very slowly, even taking breaks between steps, noticing how the breathing feels, coming back to the feet when it's time to move again, and really doing this at your own pace. You're picking out the area and how many steps you want to take. You're choosing the rhythm, and sometimes people might want to silently repeat a mantra or something that keeps them focused. Maybe just silently noting what you are feeling. Maybe you're noting the area: toes, ankle, shin, knee, heel, breath. Whatever it is, you can try that. But for this very first stage, we're going to take about 2 minutes and walk back and forth very slowly, noticing how it feels in the feet. And if our mind gets pulled to other parts of our experience, that's okay too. In mindfulness, that will always happen. The intention is to notice where it's going, not to fight it, not to hold it to the fire of our feet, like it must stay, or I did it wrong, or I get no benefits. It's not it at all. You're still practicing mindfulness if you're aware that your mind has drifted off to listening to the sound of sirens in the distance, or thinking about what I'm going to do after this, or a song comes into my head. And these are all very normal. And if we're practicing mindfulness, we're just noticing. You can even make a note of it silently And this kind of helps build that skill and those neural pathways of being aware of our current present situation in the form of sensations and all the information coming in through the senses. So I am too going to choose a little area, and I am going to walk for 2 minutes. And I encourage you to as well. We're going to come back on, discuss a little bit of what has come up in these 2 minutes. Certainly be open to questions and comments, and the next level after that. All right. Just being aware of our sensations, wherever the mind is pulled to, relaxing into this watching. And when you're ready, stopping where you are. You can continue standing, or you can find your seat again. And I want you to, if you do take your seat, to it mindfully, noticing, just like the walking, how it feels to slowly sit back down. And then we're just going to take a pause for a moment before we discuss that and be aware of what's here. So much of mindfulness really is just stopping whatever we were thinking about, because at least for myself and many others I know, we spend most of our time in a constant thought stream. So it's not that we should never think, but mindfulness is a practice of refocusing the attention on our present experience instead of the constant stream of thought that we often are feeding and believing. So I'll first open it up. Any observations, questions, anything we noticed, anyone during that short little walk back and forth?
So, Jared,
I noticed. Go ahead.
I was just aware of how much noise is in my head today. And as I was focusing on my feet and placing my feet on the ground, I began to be aware of how much noise was there and began coming back to that place of silence and stillness and that place of resilience. And it's amazing how I think I'm regulated, and I'm feeling that I'm regulated, but when I pause and when I really start focusing on the sensations in the body, I become more aware of not being where I think I am. That's it.
Mm. Very good. That's a very good observation that I too have noticed in my life of when I do finally pause, I'm noticing all these things that were already in my experience that I had, my antenna wasn't dialed in to those channels, and I didn't hear what was going on. And sometimes just the something will remind me out of the blue, and I'll come to feel my heartbeat or my breath or my feet walking. Um, and it does give me a chance to acknowledge what I'm feeling. We always talked about it when we were teaching resilience to, the kind of high performers in the military who are really trying to get better rather than accept that they're like healing. And they always wanted to talk about how you have more situational awareness about your internal environment when you stop and pause and realize maybe I was a little, my heart rate was up, or my breathing was shallow, or I was caught in some kind of unconscious part of my experience. And then that break, just that pause can really bring us into knowing more about what's going on. And as we learn to use mindfulness and the pause as a tool to recover, it becomes more accessible in that way. It's not always that way, especially in the beginning. Many people find the first times they practice mindfulness, and even for a long time, it can almost feel like it's bringing up more anxiety. And that's not everyone's experience, but sometimes I often wondered and thought in my own experience that it was there and I just finally stopped and tuned into it, which can make it feel uncomfortable and perhaps add to it. And my answer to those concerns would be, well, perhaps we take one step back before we take two steps forward, and we have to notice it first. And, that's what so many different recovery paths have said. You have to first realize what's going on and admit it. And mindfulness is like admitting the status of my organism, and seeing it for what it is, and not necessarily for all the terms and the thoughts that I might have about it, but seeing it as the truth of my current experience, and allowing those thoughts and resistance to be there as well, because we're always going to have something to say about it. That's what our humans' minds like to do. So any other thoughts or comments before we kind of talk about the next level or stage of mindful walking?
Yeah, I noticed. Can you hear me?
Yeah, great.
That I am off balance.
Mm-hmm.
More than I ever thought. As I slowed down, my balance was appearing just more
Right.
difficult with each step. And I
That
had
is
to
very
pull
interesting.
back and then take another step. And with each step, I had to actually rebalance. And it makes me wonder, outside of the physical imbalance, what else is going on with my just balancing um, those internal energies and distractions. And so much was going on once I realized I was off balance.
Mm.
you know but
Yep.
it was good um, to just look around. I'm out on my porch, and we just had a session with Denise talking about herbs, and um, I think it was Karen was saying lemon balm is coming up now, and it's actually a patch coming up out here that I hadn't noticed before. It's looking so healthy. So I wanted to
That's great.
stop and just pick the lemongrass and roll it up in my hands. But anyway,
That's
It's
perfect.
a constant moving and then coming back. You know, I have to bring myself back to the
Mm,
center to get balanced and grounded.
very good. So I think you led me right into the second stage, which is almost encouraging our mind to move around the rest of our experience. At first we're really being intentional on the sensations of our feet because that's the new thing. For the first few moments of this practice, it's really connecting with whatever is supporting us, the carpet, our shoes, the grass, whatever we find ourselves walking or sitting or standing on. And then from there, it's seeing if we can ride the wave of the present moment. And, oh, something caught my eye. I see the colors of the leaves. And can I just be with that as long as my mind wants to stay with that? Looking at the shades of the clouds and, oh, look at those shapes. And I'm looking around and, oh, I didn't notice those flowers growing over there before. I wonder what that is. Coming back to my experience. Oh, I'm hearing, letting your attention still move. And certainly if you're in bare feet, it's going to keep coming back to that because it's going to be a kind of novel, interesting. It's like your system will know that that's important when you're walking real slow because you don't want to step on something that's hurting you. And I think it's just very interesting to start to watch how we react. Certainly our balance is a little more difficult when we slow it down. I've noticed that and seen people falling all over the place at retreats when we're doing this real slow walking. Sometimes I'll be all my weight's on one foot as I'm kind of transitioning and it's happening real slow and I can feel all the little muscles and stabilizers happening. Um, that's all stuff that we're not going to feel in our normal kind of rushing from here to there walking. So the second stage is allowing our attention to move around our entire experience. And then the third stage is actually moving into a more normal walk. It's almost like, well, it was easier to be present when I was going real slow and it was new and novel. But watch what happens when you start walking normal. Oftentimes we'll realize you check out of the sensations in the feet now because you feel that all the time. It's nothing interesting. It's nothing that, it's not one thing staying there. It's very interesting how our clarity of attention can shift just by the speed that we're walking and by slowly transitioning into a more normal walk, we're helping to train ourselves to be more mindful in our normal walking of the rest of our life. And really, if that's what we could get out of this practice, a few more moments of mindfulness in the rest of what we're already doing, then that would be a wonderful result from this short practice. So for the next few moments of the practice, maybe we'll go about 5 minutes. Start with the feet again, and I'll kind of make a few comments reminding us, but you're welcome to do it on your own. You don't need to be looking at the screen or listening for me. Connect with the feet and the sensations, and then set your attention free, as true mindfulness always is. Not holding it one place, but allowing it to do what it needs to do and what it will do, because fighting against it makes us less mindful. Mindfulness is the watching of whatever shows up, not the trying to control that the normal mind is so conditioned to do. So we're going to do a few minutes of just slow, meticulous walking, letting the attention move and noting where it goes, watching where it goes. And then I would suggest that we increase our speed a little bit. Maybe you stretch out your path a little bit that you've been walking on and see what it's like to notice a normal pace and see how that differs from the rest of the practice. All right, let's do this. Feeling the toe muscles and the heel muscles. Really going slow and meticulously, sometimes almost stopping just to feel what's here. It's a great way to stretch out different areas too. You can do longer strides and really stretch into places where you might feel pressure. Experiencing whatever arises. Noting where the attention goes and letting it move around your experience. You can simply note seeing, hearing, feeling, or you can note what you're aware of. Just helps to keep us present. Maybe taking a quick pause, just check in wherever you are. Maybe scanning the body from the bottom up. And when you're finished, start your pace a little bit faster than you were before. Not quite your normal get into the store and back walk, but a little bit faster. Feeling those muscles that are being used. The ones that are shifting to keep the balance. And slowly increasing your walk to an almost normal walk at your own pace when you're ready. Turn around at your own pace and watch your attention move. Allow it to stay on different aspects as long as it wants. Trying out shorter and longer steps. And whenever you're ready, slowly making your way back to your seat. See if you can, again, be aware of all the little movements that are required to get back. And just taking a moment to check in with the body, see if you notice anything jumps out at you, anything's changed. Maybe noticing what the quality of your mind or attention is like right now. So, what did anyone notice during that slightly different variation of the mindful walking?
I felt I was more in the present moment. I think the walking helped me just be where my feet are, you know? It's like just be in that space wherever your feet are taking you. And I was still looking around, but I felt more present in that space where my body was.
Mm. Very good.
No, yeah. I think that's mindfulness, right?
How about the noting? Did you try the noting at all?
The noting things around me.
Noting what you're seeing or experiencing or where your attention went? Did you experiment with that at all?
Yeah, actually, because I went a little farther than when we first started. So I was noticing things at a distance that I wasn't noticing before. And it was, though I was present, I could look at those things and come back to being present where my feet were. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I see you've
And
noticed you have the same gnats at your house as I have here.
yeah,
You got those friends too.
yeah. And the mosquitoes are still out.
Yep. They're
But
having their last party before the winter.
right. So I'm burning a citronella candle, and that helps a little bit.
Mm.
Anyway.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Any other thoughts about that part of the practice?
I noticed I'm more comfortable with short strides than long strides. I hadn't paid attention to that before.
Mm.
Yeah, and that's when my balance is better. I'm just noticing mushrooms under my shrubs that I hadn't seen. It's just the awareness is powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting how when you slow down and start looking around, all the things that were here that we didn't see.
Yeah, that was the most, yeah, awareness.
Mm-hmm. And I like to come back to the idea before of when we're not in a certain state, we're like the radio that's tuned to the different station. We aren't tuned to the station to pick up maybe some vital information about ourselves, to tell us about something that we need to bring more of our time and attention to, or possibly didn't see something in our external environment. For me, this translates to so much of life, where whether I'm out looking for plants or mushrooms, whether I'm driving, this same type of attention and practice is applicable, and I try to bring it into pretty much all of my life. And even with that attention, it's so amazing how quick you forget. And you realize 30, 40 minutes later, I thought I was going to try to be mindful, this whole walk. And I just spent 30 minutes thinking about this thing that I didn't plan on thinking about. Even with someone who's practiced for years and years, that is still how the mind works. And I find, like any other skill, if I go to a retreat and I spend that whole week doing it intentionally, more of my life is naturally mindful after that. Or if I spend more time sitting or just more intentional time practicing, I notice how my natural habit is more aware. Maybe it takes less time before I realize I was caught in something that I didn't even realize I was spending my attention on. But it is very, very interesting. Talking about driving, when I said this before, but you can be a better driver if you're sitting there going, seeing, feeling that big breath, hearing, seeing, cloud, whatever it is, you're actually scanning and putting more of your attention into, oh, I see that driver over there looking at his phone. I better be careful of where I pass and how I approach. And, with so many people on their phones nowadays, we really can help ourselves out by being more aware during that, which is like the most dangerous thing we do as humans ever, on a normal basis. Or walking out in places where there's cars, or really just walking anywhere, whether it's, especially in the morning, if I can wake up and be mindful of those first times when my feet hit the ground and walking to the bathroom and, just actually trying to come back into my body, can really help set my day on the right course. And, just talk about a few more places where this relates to is mindful stretching is pretty much yoga practice. Yoga practice has huge benefits because you're finding your current boundaries of your body and you're going right there. You don't want to go past them, but you're just stretching. You're allowing more energy flow in your body and you're getting this mindfulness practice at the same time. It's not so important that you do the right stretches. It's just you're making an intention to do stretches and movements in the body that you're being aware of. It gives you something much more intense than just standing still or sitting still to watch. It's a more gross sensation other than the subtle stuff that we feel when we're just sitting and breathing in the silence. Both are different aspects of practice that can be beneficial, but for many people early on in their practice, movement is much more accessible and people find more benefit in it because it's something really interesting. I'm stretching, it's a burn, it's a pressure, I can feel the tension on the edge of pain and I'm backing off and I'm noticing how when I turn it to this side's stronger than this side. And it gives you something that you are helping out your body physically and you're helping out your mind and allowing yourself to really practice and connect with the present. And then, we got the physical, mental sides of it and the spiritual side. I mean, there are countless spiritual traditions that all kind of come back to the same thing, saying the doorway into connection with that is beyond whatever you want to call it, spirit, God, the infinite. That is, the doorway is the present. Whatever it is in the present. And certainly we can bring an aspect of our own spiritual view into mindfulness and connect intentionally with more than just sensations, with a spiritual side, and bringing that into our mindfulness practice can be really powerful, whether it's something you're familiar with, just tailoring it to your own specific taste and where you're at. So I do want to open the discussion up for anything to do with stress. And if there's nothing that anybody can think of. We'll kind of just do a general discussion about stress for the last portion of this session. But I first want to ask, is there anything anybody feels like sharing, or wants to steer the conversation in a certain way around stress? I'll open it up with that.
I think for me, Jared, it's just been no end to the stress. It's not like it's a stressful day. It's like there's no ending to tomorrow. There's another level of stress, and then the next 5 minutes there's another level of stress. And working with trying to be resilient, it's like I never fully resolve what's present in the moment before the next layer of stress is on top of it. I don't know how else. This is just a different time and a different day. And wow, trying to be in the moment is really challenging because the stress just keeps piling on, whether it's in the collective or whether it's my own, or that's it.
Thank you for sharing that. I definitely have just feeling that, and so many times throughout this year have tasted that for myself and with others. And man, you're right. We're just living in times that we've never seen in our lives before, where I think all in all stress is at an all-time high. And which brings me to how to kind of navigate these extra stressful times. I want to come back to something I touched on a few minutes ago, which is movement and the difference in being mindful sitting still versus the difference in mindfulness moving. I think more than ever, when we are experiencing higher amounts of stress than normal, for most of us, movement and mindfulness is more accessible. It gives us, we're not so confined, and just tasting it briefly, we can kind of connect for ourselves and see that if I'm walking and moving and kind of letting stuff out, because mindfulness is going to encourage more stress to come up and be acknowledged and be released. So movement is very helpful in releasing this. If I just asked us all to sit here for 30 minutes and pay attention to our breath and try not to move a muscle, we would have a lot of stuff come up. Even if we practice all the time, it's very common that mindfulness brings this awareness of levels of stress that we just don't have the capacity to check into before. So whether it's stretching, whether it's faster movements, I really am a huge proponent of mindful dancing. Find what is comfortable for you in the realm of movement and do it with more awareness. This is our access into the present moment, especially when we're under higher stress, especially when we just had the worst day or stuff is building up. And I'll tell you, with things building up to the election, I've never seen people more divided and stressed out ever. So I think it's now more important than ever before that we all have some intentions to bring mindfulness or some type of awareness into our lives in a healthy way, with the intention of bringing more balance, because it's inevitable. These times are going to be stressful. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your lifestyle is. We're going to be experiencing higher levels of stress. And if we can make an intention of even a few minutes a day, 5 minutes, I'm going to do 5 minutes of some mindful movement, stretching, exercise. Exercise is a great way to release stress. So anything movement related that you can just bring some awareness into, is great. I often do a mindful movement practice before bed that is basically scanning the body. That helps me stay on track. I start with one place, maybe the right foot, and I will move and massage all the way up through. Sometimes I'll just stop and shake stuff out when I feel stuff coming up. And then I'll move down the other leg, and then I'll move into the hips, and I'll do different movements in my stomach and different stretches to the side. I'll move up and go down the arm. I'll massage into a place in the shoulder where I have tension. I'll find a ball and I'll roll it on my spine where I'm feeling some pressure from all day sitting with a crooked spine. Whatever it is in our life, if we can bring movement and awareness, I promise you we are going to encourage energy flow and a step towards balance in our lives. And then the last thing I want to talk about, I think that is very important, setting an intention to practice, especially start it before the election, guys, start it now, and bring some type of intentional, every day I'm going to practice this much, whatever works for you. And try to keep something that you start before and then you keep it through, because it's not going to just snap our fingers and all this just settles and the dust clears. The world is stressful, and we're gonna continue to learn how to navigate it. So the next aspect I kind of want to talk about is the deeper level of mindfulness, and that is mindfulness of what is happening in the world and in our lives. So most of the time when I talk about mindfulness, I'm talking about feeling the pressure in your foot. But when it comes to that, helps us to get in touch with the perspective that is allowing. That perspective of mindfulness says, I'm watching. I'm at least have the intention not to control this. I'm allowing this pressure to be here. I'm allowing this pressure to go away as I shift into some other movement. So when I talk about mindfulness of our lives and mindfulness of what's going on in the world, I'm saying we don't have to deny, we don't have to pretend to hide our true preferences. We are humans, and we are going to feel the full effect of a human experience. But we can do it one of two ways. We can do it caught up in everything, needing it to happen the way we want it, resisting the things we don't like, clinging to the things we do want. Or we can shift into a more mindful view that says, I will honor my true human preferences. I will voice my true opinion. I will share my concerns, and I will shift and watch from a place that is curious, is open. The true mindful perspective that so many different traditions talk about and different people find mastery and peace within. The whole, we were going to simplify the whole Eastern religions, it would be becoming the awareness that is okay with everything. Enlightenment. That's a very basic definition of it, but it's the mindful view that says, I'm going to be the human that I am, and I'm going to be the awareness behind it that allows things to come and go. Things I like, things I don't like, stress, things that are very difficult, great joys, great sorrows. Can I watch these go and not get caught in identifying with each thing that comes and goes in our experience? Because that's really, mindfulness is like the baby step formal practice of it. Can I not get caught up in this quicker heartbeat, this off balance step, and just watch it with curiosity? And then we learn to do that with our lives. Can I find balance in this tough time of feeling like I'm not providing enough for my family and not doing enough to be healthy, and I'm not performing as good in this role that I'm in, and I snapped on my wife? And can I be okay with my own imperfections and forgive myself and love myself? And true love is true awareness. Being with my own experience is in my opinion, the best way to show love to somebody is with that presence, true open, being there with them or with ourselves. So if we can take these baby steps, we can bring that perspective into not needing the whole world to go as we need it. And I always love to come back to the quote of, until we give ourselves the freedom to be as we are, we will never be free. Until we give the world the freedom to be different, to be messed up, we will never be free. Mindfulness gives us a step in towards that freedom, towards being the awareness of what's coming up in our lives, instead of the one that's being witnessed that needs things different. We don't need to deny our preferences, our passion, our struggles. We can honor them by bringing them up, talking about it with mindfulness, doing whatever we find most helpful. But we can do it in a balanced way that's a lot more potent if we go from behind it, from the one that is unconditional, from whatever our spiritual belief is. Find our source and live from that. Live from love or whatever it is that you connect most deeply with. We can start to shift towards living in that and bringing that awareness into our mindfulness practice. So I really just covered all kinds of stuff, guys. I'd be really open to any thoughts or questions or anything that you want to share. Got about 9 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's important, as you said, and Karen said too, we need to acknowledge our feelings and the stress that's all around us now. Because whether we are aware or acknowledge it, it is there. it's everywhere. And it looks like it's going to be here for a while. So we have to find ways to balance within that kind of environment and be true to what we're feeling. But to not get stuck, you know, and that's where I use the walking and exercise, yoga, so that I don't get brought too far down, because so many people are just really depressed. And I think that movement balanced with some stillness, meditation, if you will, or just being in the moment is what will help us stay grounded. And I think we have to, as you said, Jared, set the intention, or it's not going to happen. You know, some days, if for myself, if I wake up and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I don't feel like doing anything, nothing. I'll find food, whatever is ready. I don't want to cook. I just want to just be still and do nothing. And then I find if I make the first step to do something, no matter what it is, step out the door, walk around the corner, anything, it helps propel me through the rest of that day. And I essentially walk myself out of that funk, you know? And I think we have to do that for ourselves regularly, or we can get stuck. Just stay there.
Thank you for sharing that. I've had some days in this year where I don't necessarily have a good thing to blame it on. I just feel terrible. And I have those little tricks too, walking and exercising. For me, I'm getting out in nature. I'm doing probably some cardio and just some stillness and some exercise. But I've also tried to be real intentional about, can I take some time and just feel it? Can I be here with this whole underlying feeling that I don't like? Can I really be with it? Because until I intentionally do that, I've been ignoring it and pushing it away from my awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And often things can shift once I shine the light on what's actually here.
Mm-hmm.
And not what I was unconsciously doing before I acknowledged it is trying to solve it with my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it here? What things should I be doing different in my life to prevent this feeling from ever coming back again? Whereas when I shifted to, okay, let's feel what's here. Can I just give it the honor of feeling it? And it's like, that's when things shift for me a lot of times, is when I allow it.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for sharing that.
Sure. It helps. It helps me to share it. Things come up that you don't think you're thinking. It's things that are lying in your subconsciousness, that you need to pay attention to,
And I think that's what our whole world is doing. For me, the optimistic view of this whole year and recent years, I think a lot is coming up. The whole world is being more mindful, and these things that we were kind of, when you don't address things that are under the surface, they're still influencing everything that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But until we shine a light on it and allow it to be seen and felt and heard and work itself out, that's kind of the first step. And I think we've been doing a whole lot of that in fast forward.
Yeah.
And I try to see the silver lining that says all these challenges are helping us to see what was under the surface and not really had the chance to be seen before.
I believe that.
Personally and collectively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We needed to see.
And, this year I have so much ammo to work with, but in the past, when I felt like I was in these great places, I would almost welcome a new challenge. Like, oh, great, something that I haven't addressed yet. It's a beacon to lead me into investigation, to really a place where I need to check out within my own self. And that was like the way I looked at struggle. And this year it's been so frequent, it's just like, oh, I don't even have time to deal with all this stuff that's coming up. There's challenges everywhere, inside, outside, family, work, everywhere you go, everybody's dealing with a different version of the same thing. So if we can start with ourselves, it's really where the most return on our energy comes. Is, well, if I can bring some awareness into my own life and my own reactions, I'm going to be more there for the other people in my life and the strangers that I pass on, in every way. So for me, it's really important. I'm making a big intention myself to really focus on a daily practice now, and daily exercise as we go through what could be the peak. I don't know. I'm not going to claim that, but man, these elections are getting people to a place that I've never even seen elections go to. And just be compassionate with yourselves. Whatever comes up within you, within your loved ones, a lot of ignorant stuff can be said. We got to forgive ourselves and just be a little bit open that we think we know, but we don't always know, and everybody's doing the best they can. Right? Can we be mindful about our assumptions and still, stand up for what we believe in? It's okay if we're wrong. The intention is to help.
Mhm.